the scariest things is when a riot would kick off, and I put together a meeting or something like that with some heads, and I would sit there with these guys, and I let them know that one of us might not make it out alive right now, you know, because a riot's going to happen, and you got to fight until they say stop.
My guest today is a homeboy who goes by Garet. Garet grew up in meth-infested Palmdale, California. You could say he grew up in meth culture. By 13, he was using it and selling it. By the time he was 16 or 17 years old, he had learned how to cook it. By 19, he was a kingpin, moving pounds and pounds and pounds of it at a time. And by 20, he was fully addicted and going in and out of prison for the next 15 years. In prison is where he found respect. He was on level 3 and 4 yards in California state prisons. That is the hardest, most violent place to do time. And he was a shot caller. Time and time again, every time he went in to do a stretch, he ran the Peckerwood gangs in there. And he has stories, quite honestly, that gave me chills as I was talking to him. It's unbelievable. But he eventually got out, got off of dope, turned his life around, and now he's been sober for over a decade. He runs a podcast. He runs his own business. He runs a rehab center. He is a success story against all odds. Go over to the Patreon as well if you want to hear more detail about his time in recovery and, of course, prison. Patreon.com/TheConnect Show. Without further ado, I give you Garet right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell.
I bring their whole life down and I leave them, right? Like they sell, they use, I watch them, I feed them and feed them and feed them, and I run their house in the ground, and I get it raided, and I turn it into a trap house, and I drain your bank accounts, I drive your cars, I do all this stuff, right? Then I just leave you. I'll be on to the next one, right? By that time, it'd be pretty close to me, you know, that your house is getting raided, and I have to go find me another house to be at.
That's when I see the lights behind me start to flash. And I didn't even think, I just hit it. I was driving like my life depended on it. And then I parked the car, hopped out, closed the door, and I started running.
And he pulls out a burner, a shank, it's like 6 inches. And he passes it to me. And he goes, here, that's yours. Don't ever leave the cell block without this. He was the reason I made it out of that place alive.
Hell yeah. Garet, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
You look like every guy that tried to fight me on the yard.
Nice.
I immediately saw you, and it just brought me back to, D block.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens. I guess I have that. I was really, wasn't too much. It'd be the guys that were with me, that'd be the ones that would fight you. I'd just be the one to point, That's just the way
so you
it
were
works.
running things by the end?
By the end, yeah. Usually, maybe because my height or my weight and all that stuff, that I usually land in places and immediately would just be a key holder or something, know?
Mm-hmm. So would you, if you hit a yard, you would obviously get recruited right away, or did you already know people? Like, how does it work?
For me, I didn't know. I guess after doing what you do on the streets, you sort of get a name for yourself. Mm-hmm. And then so once you hit in the yards and stuff like that, you get well known. And then so it was just a matter of once I would hit, I would always know somebody. And immediately I whether I wanted to or not, would be like a right hand or a shot caller or whatever there was, you just level right up. They just hand it to me.
Right. And then you get new shoes right away.
You just have the best of the best. Yeah, new shoes, new sheets. Like on laundry day, your basket's coming with all fresh stuff. That's really big in there too. A fresh white T-shirt, fresh white socks every day. You get one off, one off. One on, one off, and the shoes. And so like there was a homeboy or something like that in R&R. Like I would immediately go into an intake, and I would always get taken care of 100%.
Did you like going to prison?
It was like a lifelong thing for me. So going to prison was like the way I grew up, and everybody I hung out with, even the guys and all that stuff. Like going to prison was like I was just waiting for that part of my resume to get filled. And I remember being 14, 15 years old at like some older homeboys' houses, and I'd be pushing a broom, like sweeping the driveway, and they tell me like things like, you should get used to that. And I didn't know why, because when you're in prison and you get to like a tier on a 4 yard or a 3 yard, and you're running those tiers, what you're doing is you're pushing a broom around the same way I was on the, at that time. Wow. And so it took a long time for me to relate to all that stuff.
Wow. It's completely normal where you're from.
Completely normal. Yeah.
So tell us where you're from.
I'm from Antelope Valley, Palmdale, Lancaster area.
And what is that like? You're from Southern California, but you're from the other Southern California.
On the other side of the hill. Like if you come to Los Angeles or something like that and you mention Antelope Valley, people don't know where that's at. But yeah, it's the desert, open areas, lots of the meth capital of the world back in the day, it seemed like. But I don't know, might not be that now. And just a lot of dry. It was just a lot of gangs, a lot of, but the thing is I don't know if it was any different than anywhere else. That's the only place I know, because that was the only place I ever been. I never went outside. I never went past the 14 freeway. I wasn't coming into the valley, or I wasn't going to Bakersfield. I wasn't going to North Cal or Southern Cal. I wasn't going to the beaches. I was staying in this little area, just doing what we do, and yeah.
And your household was rough.
Very rough. I grew up with, I'm a mama's boy at heart. I grew up with my mom, and living and that's a lot of it, how I met these guys that, that were convicts and that were doing the convict things, or where they're selling drugs and they're, the way they live their life. And I sort of, you don't realize it, but being a product of your environment, my mom had me with these guys, and then I was just learning, getting this thing on my resume for, when it was just like a matter of when I was going to get busted.
Was your mom on drugs?
Yeah, she was.
She was on meth?
Yes, she was.
And did you know it was methamphetamine, like even back when you were 12 years old?
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, I knew it when I was 12 years old, 13 years old. And from a very young, I always knew what it was, because my mom would be really methed up, and she'd give me her stuff,
She would give you her.
She'd be like, "Hey, hold this for me," because she didn't want to lose it, And then my friends would come over to my house, we had a little junior high sleepover and stuff, and I pull out some bumps on the plates you get from throwing darts at the fairgrounds, the little mirrors, and it had some Mickey Mouse slogan on it or something, And then I pull it out. My mom would have lines laid out, and I pull it out with my friends, and I'd be like, "We should, you guys want to do a bump?" And we all would do bumps, and then go ride our motorcycles or something,
In junior high school.
Like
most kids, normal kids would be like,
let's go to Garet's house. Let's go to Garet's house. We can do whatever we want over at Garet's house. I grew up, but I grew up on the outskirts of Antelope Valley at this time, and sort of when this was it was fun. We get drunk and we smoked weed and we sort of hang out as a group of kids, would, and then we sort of get older and the drugs was present in my household, even though it wasn't in theirs. And then a lot of times I think too, is I had a big resentment or something like that against people who did the drugs, because I seen what it was doing to my family. And so I really didn't like it, and then as the time got over, my mom's connection was became my father figure. And his son went to jail, and then I stayed with him I just followed him around, because I guess when a boy gets to a certain age, he starts looking for that male to hang out with. And my mom, I'm not no tiny kid, I'm a big kid, my mom was probably just wanted to push me off on somebody that I would listen to. And he never showed me drugs, but he was a drug dealer, and he showed me, and I watched. It was never, I just watch him on what he did and what he was doing. And, and then, so when he offered me, I remember coming back from Los Angeles with him, probably going and doing the pickup. And we're in his convertible. He always had the nicest of nicest things. And to me, that was attractive, because I didn't have none of that stuff. He had motorcycles, cars, pool tables in the house, swimming pools, all this stuff that was just so attractive, and he's actually the one that when I was pushing the broom would always tell me, that where I was going to go. And
he said, expect prison.
Yeah, but without saying that,
Yeah. Did he end up going to prison?
Yeah, he was a convict. Yeah, and he ended up going to prison
for selling ice.
For selling, absolutely. Yeah.
And this is white dope.
This was, back then it wasn't even crystal meth. This is back when it was P2B and old biker dope and P2P, and it wasn't even crystal meth. It was that old, it was a speed. Right. That was back when it was speed, speed. This
is when the white guys were cooking it up in trailers and bathtubs.
Correct.
Yeah. Before the Mexicans took over.
Yeah. So
what was the progression of meth addiction when it was biker dope? They go from snorting lines to smoking it, or
to
what
me,
was
it was, I always, when it was the days of the speed, it was just only, I was snorting it and snorting it. And it wasn't until I started selling it that I saw people with the light bulbs and all that stuff and them using it, you know, and so it was just like a vial or a bullet, you know, and and I was selling bullets. I was selling like sniffs at school and high school, you know, just selling a bullet $5 to $10 a pop, you know, and I leave every 2 periods. I go to my house, I fill it, and I come back, you know, and
there was enough kids, normal kids, you know, regular kids buying bullets,
buying a bump off the bullet, you know,
right?
Like you see people with the spoons for Coke, and then you have your bullet for speed.
Because where I grew up, like if you were in the high school trying to sell speed, people would be like, who the f is this guy? They would they would kick you out of the friend group. They would think that was weird. That was like what I did with bags of weed. You were doing that with meth.
Well, I did it. I started off with bags of weed and then started in with the meth too at the same time. So there was like a certain amount of kids that did the meth. And then you have a group of kids that did the weed, you know, and you just have these different groups. And I started this like was a very neutral based person in all these little, whether you're in the stoner crowd or you're in the jock crowd or whatever it is. And I think a lot of that, I knew so many different people in high school at this time. I wasn't in high school long, but I just went to so many different schools growing up, you know, because my mom we're always moving around house to house, you know, and all this stuff that it really like made me meet a lot of kids throughout that time. So by the time I got to high school, you know, it was just it was like there was a couple reasons. It's like I knew a lot of people, and then the second I found a way for me to not be such a, you know, like I felt like a really poor and different, you know, like I didn't have like new shoes walking in. I didn't have like, I wasn't walking in my first day of school with like the new pants and a new shirt and all this stuff, you know, and it's not a big deal, but maybe for a kid it is. And so I found ways of supporting this habit or actually like my first thing was as I did it for a way of life to bring money to the table and to be able to get these things that I needed. So I started selling weed and I started selling, you know, I fill that bullet up, you know, and I sell these snorts and then, you know.
Was your mom's plug supplying you?
Yes, 100%.
And when we talk about meth dealing, right, in these white suburban or rural communities, it's always hand in hand with using an addiction. I've never met not one white dope dealer that didn't also use. Is that the same for you?
Yeah. I as much as you try to create it and make it like a business, you know, whether you're and that's the supply and demand of just having it and then, you know, making a lot of money, like you start doing it. And I think as time progresses, the need to use the drugs comes more. So you end up using more just probably because I mean, there's times when you cook, 1, 2, 5 pounds of it, and like literally use and be like, all right, I need this for myself, this is for me instead of like distributing and making this money, like a lot of money to be on it. Here's $20,000 to $30,000, but here I am. I'm like, I need this. This one right here is mine.
Would you cook up 5 pounds of dope?
I have at times, 5 pounds at a time.
Well, you knew how to cook.
I got into cooking too as well. Wow. Yeah.
Where would you cook?
In the garage, RVs, broken down abandoned houses in the middle of the desert. Right. It all depends on the method of it. I blew out some garages. I would just do it at my house, 100%. Wow. Right in the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah. And then there was a couple times in the houses I blew the garage out. Didn't care, Yeah,
I remember that back in the 90s and the 2000s when it was biker dope. Because there's a lot of that in Portland where I'm from. You'd always hear about houses burning down, meth houses just going up in flames.
Yeah, well, for me, it was like the speed. I'm in high school here. I am doing this speed. I'm selling these bullets and all this stuff. And I drop out of high school. And I continue to go to this life on the streets of selling drugs and doing what we, and doing what and I don't know if I was addicted to the streets or the drugs or the money that was coming with it. No, but I stayed out there long enough, and I saw that transition go from speed methamphetamine. And then I got with these guys that, that were, and then I met a guy that was a white gang member that I just latched onto, and we all just, and I sort of was just in his back pocket, selling for him, doing whatever, like I beat somebody up for him, or I collect for him. I just, and then you sort of get a name for yourself of that's, that's so-and-so's, right hand or whatever man. And like, the people that belong in that crew. And so,
who were the white gangs out in Antelope Valley?
It was like Palmdale, Peckerwoods, Antelope Valley, Peckerwoods, a lot of just Peckerwoods, but there's a lot of comrades and skinheads out there, just, I'm sure that every area, whether in San Fernando Valley or North Cal or Bakersfield, always have that same group of gangs of the homies or the blacks, and then the whites of you got just the Aryan Brotherhood, you got the Peckerwoods, you got and you got the comrades or the P9s and all those too as well, and
it's almost a pipeline. It goes from like the drugs to the streets to prison, and right, and it's just there because it's just a given that because you're living so reckless.
Yeah,
there's not even
careless.
There's not even like a pretense of like legal money in that kind of like white meth underworld.
I think
it almost seems like you're not even trying to stay out.
Well, I think a lot of it that we think about that money, but that's not how you get in the bigger leagues of things, that you're in more of a business, that you're in the money part of it, and that's the bigger cooking. Like 5 pounds isn't nothing, or 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds isn't nothing, but when you're going into like meeting bigger guys that have like 20 to 50 or something like that, then it's way bigger.
Did you get to that level?
I never got to that level personally, but like I was connected with the people that were, and I think a lot of it running with all those people was just, it was like doing all that stuff we do is with the selling and the streets is like you sort of just, it's like all of a sudden it becomes your turn to be at bat, just like you went to jail and it was just all of a sudden like, this guy's gone, but you've been hanging out with this guy and you sort of just take over what he's doing, and then that also too goes with like the clientele, and people, because like you're a right hand to somebody, you're making deliveries and you're picking up, and then all of a sudden like that's your route,
Yeah. So is that what happened? Did your plug get popped?
A plug of mine he didn't get popped. What happened is that we were messing around with guns one night and he blew his head off and in the house. And he put a shotgun down his pants and pulled it up and his head was off. And just like that, it was a game changer for lots of people, and
well, first of all, what did that do to you? Psychologically, psychologically, I was so methed up that I don't know if it did. Like I was numb. Like I lost this great friend and homeboy and like partner of mine. That I've been running with since I was, 14 or 13. Since I was in high school. Now I'm like 21, 22, and maybe somewhere in that age. And all of a sudden, I find out he's gone. I just left, and that morning I find out, like between the time I left and that morning, I find out that he blew his head off. I mean, I was in the room with him as he was playing with the gun, and I left because I was getting uncomfortable, and boom, just like that, leave one in the chamber. Wow, holy! Yeah. And so now everybody's plug is dead.
Yeah. So
did you take over? Did you find his connect? How did it?
Well, I didn't find his connect or nothing like that. I just sort of, I found clientele, and I went there on my own, and I found, like a lot of people knew that I was, you're connected with this guy, but with a guy that's so connected, it's, you just, it's a supply and demand, and I go out there and I find out, and I get connected with these people that are making it and doing that thing. I follow in their footsteps a little bit, trying to be on the hands-on side of manufacturing methamphetamine. And Because I think a lot of it too is like the supply and demand, and like after a while doing like you being a middleman of all of it, you want to be like the main connection out there. And so what happened for me is I was tired of like I had you. It was never just one connection, because one connection might not have it, and I don't want to be without. So like I have 1 to 5 of guys that just if I didn't have it, you had it, whatever, and we went through this whole little cycle, and I think that like you don't even know it's your time or up to the plate or anything like that, and it was just a matter of like I ran into a guy and he had glassware, and we like, damn, with that, then we just need this, and we had his trailer, and
wow. How much did you cook? How much were you able to cook? Like, I don't know, in a given
I'm gonna
night?
tell you, the first couple times I 5 pounds was the tops. That was the tops I was ever able to manage.
How long does that take you to cook?
Sometimes it'd take a week. Sometimes it would take at first, because laws changed with the glass way, and also what changes the way of cooking and the materials that we needed to get cooking. And so like ephedrine was getting harder and harder to get. Like we used to be able to get the Sudafed from the stores, and you get like an entourage of people to go in, and they'd be coming in with trash bags, and they sit in your garage, and they'd be breaking up pills with the blenders, and then that sort of went away. And then I found out that I can get Sudafed from horse blocks at feed stores, and like you put it, and then I am here with a whole bunch of kiddie pools with salt blocks in them, and then they started taking records of like who's buying all this, like who's buying these salt blocks, because they they're not dummies, they're like a feed store, and I'm going in there all or going in there with tattoo guys, gang banged out, flying colors, like hey, I need 20 salt blocks for our horses. You guys don't ride.
Not exactly subtle.
And let me get this toothpick, or something, and I think it was on the supply and demand, and then the glassware, and
so how does it work? You put the salt blocks in the kiddie pools?
You put it in the kiddie pools with diesel fuel. It separates the ephedrine, and it sort of separates, like it dissolves and separates, and you take it off. You take the ephedrine off the bottom, and then you clean it. And that was why for a while, like there was a dope going out there, and it'd be like almost like a fuely taste to it, like a diesel fuel, and that's because you're just separating, you're taking it. But there's a couple times when I messed up, and I got the salt instead of the ephedrine, and then I cook it, and I messed everything up because there it is, it's salty,
right? So would there be a dope that you couldn't sell?
That would be, so then I go through this whole process of making half a pound or a pound or something like that. And it'd be all salt. Be trying to find ways of how to like backtrack. I'd be going to the guys I know, like, hey, is there a method I could backtrack, or I use somebody else's ephedrine or something like this. And, and it wouldn't work. And so you just have to start over. The same thing happens like in the garage, and like, I have a 7 to 14 flask on a rocker, and a burner and hoses and kitty litter and all this stuff lined up, and then all of a sudden it blows, and it's just like you just do your best to pick up the pieces, redo it all, and start again.
Yeah, it's such a labor intensive process. You can see why when the Mexicans figured out how to make crystal meth, it just took everything over.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they could just make so much of it, and it was packaged and ready to go.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into that, or were you already in prison by then?
Well, the thing is that I got busted, like the manufacturing was, and I did it for as long as I could. But then by the time I got out of prison, my second or third time, the streets changed, because the people who I was doing that stuff with, they're not around, they're in prison, or the cycles of someone on the streets and someone not, is different. So, and then I come out there, and a lot of the Mexicans had it sewed up, and we just be going then, and then we just go into business together, or we go into war together, like then the tax laws that you have in prison and all that stuff are the same tax laws you're on the street, dealing with,
What are those tax laws?
Just the 10%, or a lot of it's like territory and of like who you're selling to, what neighborhood you're in, like like if you're from the valley and you're in Antelope Valley, like this is, and you're selling, like, I figure that's money out of my pocket. So, we're going to either come to an agreement to where you're paying me some money to be in my area, or I'm going to try to eliminate your house so you're not selling there no more.
So you would tax Mexican dealers like that?
Yeah, we just go around and push our weight into that, We try to, because the thing is to dominate it. Like, and if a bunch of white guys are dominant and selling drugs, that we don't want nobody in our area doing that stuff.
Right.
And so a lot of times what happens is that, the weaker ones get wedged out, and the strong, we make an alliance and of course doing drugs, it never work out. And sooner or later it'd be someone owes somebody, and it end up all bad,
Yeah. Did anybody end up getting killed on the streets?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cars got riddled, and absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. People got, absolutely.
When's the first time that you did a bid? How old were you when you first went to prison?
I went to prison at 19.
What was that over?
20 years old on a 4-yard in Tehachapi. I got out in 22.
What was that beef? What did you first fall for?
My first one was nothing big. It was just like I beat up my mom's boyfriend. I went to the house. My mom was, she was heavily into drugs, and everything was too. And I went there, and I show up there one more time. She has this black eye, and I assault her boyfriend pretty bad. And I take his shoes, make him walk down the street type thing. And
he was abusing her?
He hit her. Yeah, he hit her, and I don't like that. I don't like men hitting women at all in any type of way. This is a lot of the trauma that you grow up with, and now that I'm older, I don't put up with it. And the next thing I know is that I get an assault, and I get busted, and I get an assault charge. Mm-hmm. And
must have beat him up pretty bad.
Yeah, I guess so.
He was walking.
Yeah, he was running down the street, practically naked, So.
Yeah, you witnessed some pretty horrible abuse as a younger man too, of your mother.
I think I grew up with a lot of abuse and all that stuff going through with my mom and multiple guys and abusive relationships, and I think a lot of it too, of that whatever trauma came from all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think too, a lot of times that on the streets with drugs and all that stuff, and I was so numb and everything like that from all this, that I wasn't too much of like a fighter guy or nothing like that. Like I taxing people and doing all this stuff, but like I was more of I was a meaner person when I was in prison,
Mm-hmm.
like the drugs and alcohol away. And I wasn't scared of getting busted or hurting somebody to a point and catching a term, because now I'm in jail, and I got into open palming people instead of using my fists so they can't see the knuckles, and
Mm-hmm.
knuckle checks and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And a lot of times of where I stood and what I did inside the prisons, that I didn't have to, like, I always had guys that were just jump and do it for me with an instant,
So you had juice.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you had more respect in prison than you did on the street with your mom and, you being a junkie and everybody around you being on dope.
I isolated myself, because even though I started off drug dealing and cooking and all this stuff as a 7 to 8, 9 years go by, and I'm in and out of prison, and we talk about, it goes from, I went from selling drugs and being a connection to just being that connection, that guy. I remember I used to despise, like, seeing that I run into people I knew at the store, like when I'd be getting gas or something like that, and they just be like, they didn't have no money, but they want drugs, and I'd be like get away, like, just get away from me. They just like totally just trying to, like block them away, like, whether they're homeless or just like junkie, like, because I felt like I was different than you because I only snorted, or
right.
Right. And here I am, and I'm at the store, and then the time comes years later when now I'm not so much, I'm not that connection or nothing like that anymore. I'm somebody inside the prison system. Mm-hmm. Right. But I'm a nobody when I'm out on the streets. What I am is I'm addicted to drugs, man. I'm addicted to that same drugs I cooked. Now I'm addicted to that drug to where I need it.
And you're one of those people that used to look down on.
And I'm one of those people I look down on. Exactly.
Hey guys, summer is almost here. You're probably making your travel plans. And if you're anything like me, you absolutely hate packing. That's my least favorite part about traveling because I never know what to bring, especially when it comes to shoes. When I travel, I walk around constantly filming content for the Connect. I go on the road doing stand-up. I also try to get outdoors. I go to the beach, I go to the mountain, but also I want to have a shoe that I can wear out to a fancy dinner if I want, or to a bar or a club. So I need something casual. I end up having to pack like 4 or 5 pairs of shoes, and it's a nightmare. That's why I love Vessi shoes. This is a game changer. It gives me everything I need in one shoe. This is the Stormburst Low Top. Look at how cool this shoe is. If I want to go hiking, this has the grip and coverage of a boot, but it's a low top shoe. So after I go on a hike and I come back to the city and I want to go out to the bar or go on a date, I can wear these like they're a cool, casual, sleek sneaker. But the best part about Vessi, all of their shoes are completely waterproof. And unlike other waterproof boots and shoes, Vessi uses Dymatex technology to keep your feet warm during the winter and cool during the summer. They're extremely breathable. Plus, they're flexible. Look at that. I can wear these as like slip-ons when I go through the airport. They're an amazingly dynamic shoe. I wish I had had these growing up in Portland, where it rains 6 months out of the year. I have childhood trauma from wet socks. With Vessi shoes, it eliminates my need to prepare for weather. And it's not just rain, I can walk through puddles. I can go through rivers or streams if I'm hiking. Vessi has figured out a way to make a truly dynamic, athletic shoe that also looks good and keeps your feet completely dry. They also make big and tall sizes, which is great for me. I wear size 14. I can never find anything when I go to the shoe store. Garet, my guest of this episode that you're watching, has already bought a pair. He's a giant. He asked me, where do you get these Vessi shoes? And I gave him this promo code. And this is where you're going to get them. Go to vessi.com/connect for an automatic 15% off your first purchase. Once again, that's vessi.com/connect for 15% off your first purchase. And it's not just shoes. They have all kinds of outerwear, jackets, gloves, socks, beanies, bags. Vessi has you covered no matter where you're going or what you're doing. Once again, go to vessi.com/connect and get your 15% off. The link is in the description. Support them because they support the show. Let's get back into the episode. When so you went to Tehachapi
State Prison.
Wow, and a level 4.
Level 4.
That's wild.
I went there twice, more than once.
That's wild. At 20 years old, you go to the most intense,
scared to
prison.
death. I'm big. Like I had some guys. Of course, I met all these guys, and all the stuff that they were telling me sort of it makes sense with the broom and like one up, one down. Like I tell you this, man. I go there, I get to the yard, and this guy, I'm maybe my 3rd or 4th day there, fresh on the yard, and I remember this guy after breakfast comes over, and he's like, hey, Big Wood, Wood, right? And I'm on the top bunk, and my cellie gets off. His name was Halloween. My cellie gets off, and he's like, not you, the big guy, And I go to the door and he's like, roll your shit up, man. You're moving in with me. He's like, you from the Valley? I'm like, Antelope Valley. And Antelope Valley and San Fernando ran together, Uh-huh. And I'm like, I'm from the Valley. Yeah. And he's like, cool, roll your stuff up. You're coming to me. And I'm going to tell you this. This is a key moment, man. Cause it's all about who you know and who you get with in there. So what it is I went right inside from that. I went right inside with the key holder. Mm-hmm. And then he laced me up in a way that, hey, this is how it's going to work here. If I stand up, you stand up. If I fight, you fight. This is my stuff is your stuff, right? If you want a cigarette, you grab a cigarette. You want a shot of coffee, you grab a shot of coffee. If I'm on a weight bench, if I'm here on this yard and I'm working out, like you're watching me as I do a set, and I'm watching you as you do a set. Like there is no at the same time. Like we walk to the chow hall, like you're right behind me. And that is just like I just felt like that right there. Being schooled by this guy, man, just like felt you like alive. And then everybody, since, you know, here is with this guy, and he's like cooler than ice. He's like an idol, you know, like, and you're just sitting there and you're rolling with them. And so everybody gives you that same respect.
Yeah.
And
you're his right-hand man.
Literally your right-hand man. You're living like, you know, hey, you know, and you already know, you pass this, do this, you know, hey, take this and give it to that guy and all this stuff. And the respect that you get, you know, and I'm no small guy in there, period too. So like, I'm not like, you know, I'm bigger than all those cops that were on steroids, you know, like I'm just as tall and I'm humongous, you know? Yeah. And,
so what were some of the activities that first stretch? Like, what did he have you doing?
Right. What he just had me doing is a lot of times I was just making plugs and, you know, and wrapping up and delivering, you know, dropping kites off and, moving drugs around and mainly just getting my feet around. Like I guess, I don't know why it was. Like maybe I was just so big that they didn't want me checking and beating up guys. They always be like, hey, no, Garet, like you're just too damn big. You know?
Yeah, you can't move really subtly. Getting away with in prison is all about moving subtly. And me and you were too big.
The thing about getting away with stuff in prison is about how you plan it, man. And the thing is we go through, and whether I stabbed him or you stabbed him, and I pass this name off, I pass this off, and I pass that off, and the next thing it's gone. And then that's before the blood even hits the ground. You know, like the planning that you see and the patience and all that stuff and the way it works, you know.
And so you learned all that from your
him,
cellie.
100%. And he never really asked me to do nothing other than those basic things. Like here on this is how we're going to roll in this shower. Like when I, you know, like when I go to shower, like, you know, just that one up, one down. We're together. We're a team. I jump, you jump. Just knowing that somebody has your back, like you put your full on trust in this other man, you know, and he's putting his full trust on you, and you guys become like the best of, like, the connection that you guys get is beyond anything I could ever imagine, you know. And
here you are with another father figure. Like this keeps coming up in your life. This, you know, the father that you have a father, but he wasn't in your life as a kid, and you found it first in, you know, your mom's connect on the street, and now with the shot caller in this wild ass level 4 prison, and you're finding love, really. Yeah.
You're finding that missing void that you haven't had for so long. And that's just like that need of a father, of someone to tell me what to do or how to be.
I remember in the interview that you did, we're not going to plug them because they're competition, but you said, like, people ask you if you killed anybody in prison, and you said, I never stuck around to see. So can you describe, you know, without telling on yourself or anything like that, like how does like a well-planned prison hit go down?
It goes so smoothly that that by the time they notice, that by the time it gets brought to the attention that the person is usually on the very blink, like if it's out in the open and you're just getting, it's the difference. I think there's a difference between getting booked and getting stabbed, you know. I think booking somebody maybe just be a checking, you know. You know, you're not trying to kill them, but you're trying to get a message through.
And that's also stabbing, but you're not trying to kill them when you stab them.
That's like, so that's more like body shots.
Yeah.
And to where like somebody that did something, like if you got a kite into somebody and then and then you have to like get them removed off the yard, you know, in a way that you have to mark them, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's like across their face or on their neck, you know, and to where it's like a dope dead or something like that. And you're just hitting them in the kidneys or something, you know, to where like something else goes on and you're running in a cell and you're almost trying to take their life, you know. And those stitchings and the stabbing, that it would go through and they might not find them till count. And a booking, like you would do it or have it done to where like it's a yard down situation, white on white, and resume program type thing, you know.
Oh, so if somebody gets a booking, that's not as serious.
It's a serious thing, but it's sort of just like checking, like a way to check your people, you know, without, because you already, the fits, you know, you already checked them so as much as you can with a break off and all this stuff. And it's like a discipline, you know, disciplinary action, you know.
How do you get away with stabbing somebody in a prison where there's cameras everywhere? How do you get away with running into somebody's cell and, you know, stabbing them to death?
I don't know if there was, I mean, I'm
like, where did people get?
I don't know if there was cameras in this. And maybe there was, but I don't know. But there's always blind spots. 100%. There's always blind spots. And there probably was, but there's always blind spots. And that's usually in the tunnel as you walk into the building. And you would sometimes you could switch cells, like you come in from a chow or you come in from yard and you would switch cells. And then that person, now you have the people like, hey, you come to my cell, this guy goes to there because he's on my A side, you're on C side. And you go in there like that and do like sort of a swap. And then that way when the time comes and you're down in that blind spot, you book them, you know. And there's been situations, I mean, sometimes I was able to crack that cell door. You know, I just have those COs or whatever they do. I just tell them, I tell them what was going on. Like, hey, I'm checking, you know, they ask you, are we going to take somebody out in the stretcher or are they going to be all right? You know? And I'd be like, they'll be all right. You know, no stretcher, you know? And
that was enough. They said, okay, cool. Go handle your business.
And they'd be like, and they let you handle your business. You get a relationship with these COs. They don't, you know, you just, hey, I'm clean, you know, they know the work that, you know, as on our end that we have to do. And they sort of want it to go smoothly as possible to where there's less paperwork or work for them. So, you know, they're like, you're like, hey, I need this cell door cracked, you know, at 1, you know, and they always feel the vibe too, because the energy, you can always feel like the energy inside the whole thing is just off. If people are just waiting for like this thing to crack, but they don't know what it's gonna crack, you know, or the same thing with like a riot or something too. Like it's like everybody's just, it's like the whole tier, it's like the whole thing is on edge, you know, and the energy's just all off. And yeah, and I was on I've been on some 3 and 4 yards. I was on there for a minute, and I had these relationships too, to where I was just like, I cracked it, you know, I'm gonna go, and you just, you know.
How often, what was the wildest yard, the wildest level 4 you were on?
Tehachapi, 100%. Tehachapi was the wildest.
Did you see anybody get killed?
I did. I got people multiple times I'd seen people get, you know, stabbed and shot on the yard, get shot.
By the guards?
By the guards, yeah.
Like during a stabbing or a riot or
something? A fight would break off in the chow hall, and the guys would keep on going at it, and the cop would just come out. He'd just shoot them right there on the spot, you know, and you'd be on the ground, and you just see the blood flowing through, or you'd be on the yard, and whether it was our people or another race or something like that, or, you know, go off. The scariest things is when a riot would kick off, and like some of them I knew about, but some of them I didn't. Like when it jumped, and it'd be, you know, and that's what what Thumper taught me about, you know, back to back and all that stuff going down. And what
does that mean?
And it just means like
fight back to back.
Yeah, we're back to back. Yeah, we're fighting to where nobody can come up behind me and stab me or book me, you know. And I definitely seen in a mist, like something like that would happen. Like you usually create that diversion of like something like that would happen. A fight would break out, and the whole time while everybody's focusing their attention on here, and zero on the other side, and you're stabbing this guy. And by the time it all gets picked up, they don't even know what happened. It's just you got this guy over here in the right field bleeding to death. You know?
Did you said you thought that you might have died. You were prepared to die in some of those riots.
I absolutely was prepared. And I would tell why, and I put a kite, or I put together a meeting or something like that with some heads, and I would sit there with these guys, and I let them know that sometimes that there would be times that when, you know, one of us might not make it out alive right now, you know, because a riot's going to happen, and you got to fight until until they say stop, you know, and then and then when they go down, the yard goes down and you're right back up, and the yard goes down, you're right back up. And then until we're physically, cuffed from feet and hands, and you're on the ground. And yeah, so like,
so you can't stop once the tear gas comes. You have to get up again.
When the tear gas comes, like that, it stops. But yeah, usually if they're spraying you too and you're going down, you're back up until you can't.
Right.
Until you can't. You know?
How many people, when a whole yard gets down, it's hundreds of people.
Mm-hmm.
How many people have weapons, and how many people are just going with fists?
I would say 90%. I would say 50 to 80% of people have weapons on them at all times. At all times. And
even when they're on the yard,
stashed on the yard on them, and even more so when they know that something's going to happen. And that's what they say, never get caught slipping, because you never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah, better to get caught with than without. Huh?
Yeah.
What if you just got caught with a piece, but you weren't doing anything? You were just on the yard, and for some reason you got searched. Was that just a whole shot?
It'd be a whole shot. I guess you might be able to get it thrown away because, like, hey, it depends on where they find it. I mean, they found it in your mattress, and that's the mattress you sleep in. There's not a way you can really defend yourself on that one. You get a shoe term or a whole term depending on what happens, and like for some people, that's what we wanted. Like we wanted to earn our keep in our way. So like we wanted to have that piece, and we wanted to use it, and we wanted to earn whatever came. Like you earn your letters, or you earn a swazi, or whatever you earn from doing that, putting that work in.
Did the woods have swazis?
Yeah. The peckerwoods have swazis. Yeah. Warbirds and swastikas. Yeah. 100%.
On your midsections? Because I don't see any tats on you right now.
I got absolutely no tattoos.
Even all of your time down?
All my time down. I got not one. I got this tattoo right here that you see. And I got that when I was like 12 years old from my cousin, and I remember going home with that, my mom crying, and she's like, "Just please, man." She's like, "Please, Garet, don't ever get tattoos on your body." And as much as I wanted them, I wanted those, that swazi, and I wanted those letters and those numbers and all that stuff on my body all the times. And this things never worked out on the way I wanted to, being in a higher level yard and being locked down for, 12 to 18 months at a time, or 6 to 12 to 18 months at a time. And then I was never able to get it. And then I was also one too that I'm very like picky on earning your stuff like that, and you can earn it inside there, and you can earn it on the streets. And then since I was running around with these Peckerwood gang members and stuff like that, I only wanted them to do it. If they're going to put ink on me, then it's going to be one of them to put the ink on me. Because there's value to me. There was value in that, and I had a good friend of mine. I ain't going to say no names, but I remember sitting there, and it's years later, and like he's been my idol since I was a little kid, and now we're like running guns and selling meth and cooking and doing all this stuff. And I remember sitting in the barn with him, and we're getting high, and I just love, like he's like my height. He's like a guy. He's me, man, without the tattoos, but he's just blasted from head to toe.
Wow.
And I remember sitting there with them getting loaded. At this time, I don't even smoke it. I don't even snort it. I'm shooting it. And I was like, dude, I want to be just like you, man. Like,
Does that blow your mind?
It blows my mind.
That you thought like that?
It blows my mind because I really thought that carried like depth and weight to be like the idleness of that, of having all these, and he blew up on me. He was like, man, you don't want this. You don't want this, like this isn't what you want. This isn't the life you want to live. This isn't like, these tattoos ain't cool. Us sitting in this barn, with this money, dope, and guns. This isn't cool, man. I didn't understand it because to me it was cool. See, this is I'm like, but to me this is like, man, this is like I'm here with my idol, just like Thumper was my idol when I was in in that yard, and here I am on the streets, and I'm doing some stuff, and I'm sitting there, man. He's like, man, I hope you never get tattoos on your body. Wow. And I hope you soon one day, you live a different life than this one we're sitting in right now, and that guy still to this day is running, and I hear from him time to time, He lets me know how good he sees me and doing the stuff I'm doing, and he lets me know how good I'm doing, and
wow.
And it's crazy, man, the impact like that,
So you never got tatted in all your years in the system.
I couldn't, man. I couldn't.
It just didn't work out.
I couldn't. I wasn't going to have some guy on his,
some lame or some regular dude.
Some guy that just made his gun put tattoo ink on me. Like I used to watch. I have all these guys, and I see all these guys putting all these tattoos in ink, and I didn't like it. I was in Ironwood on the yard, and there's this guy. His name was my name. His last name was my first name, and I'm gonna tell you, he did the best work on the yard. Like, he was in high demand, and he was my partner, handball partner, workout partner. I just hung out, just like we just connected in a way. And that guy right there, he slanged ink, man. And I definitely would have let him. And I got out, and then I heard from him when he got out, but we never hooked up, man. And I didn't want no unfinished product on me. Right.
Right. What happened to Thumper?
Last I heard, Thumper passed away.
In prison?
No. I don't know if it was in prison or on the streets. And I just background check, and I was doing time and stuff like that. I heard that Thumper passed away.
Wow.
And my second time around, I had a cellie. His name was Loki, and Loki was cool too, man. He was a lifer. He was another great guy, man.
Were you worried in all this work that you're doing in prison, being a short timer? Were you worried about catching another case?
No, I didn't care. I wasn't worried about getting more time added to my time. I felt at home when I was in there.
Right.
See, I was doing my very best surviving on the streets. And I'm like going in there. I'm like, I'm in prison. Like, at the very least, I maybe drink some Pruno on Christmas,
right.
Or,
so you're completely sober. So now you're feeling things.
Yeah. I think inside there that as much as I'm like, I couldn't say no to that drink or the drug when I got out, but when I was in there, like, I felt like I had a more of a responsibility of being a level-headed and keeping and keeping your surroundings safe and stuff like that. Then I didn't want to be in a knot and getting stabbed or something, or in a dope debt, and stuff like that. And I think it's something too that, like, Thumper, like the elders, the guys that I was with that had the yards, they're like, we don't get drunk and we don't get loaded here. It's a sign of weakness, and so I since I respected them in all that sense, I wasn't doing that when I was in there on those yards.
You had responsibility now. For the first time in your life, you have a purpose.
Yeah. Like, the hardest thing now that you live by is, like, some of those kites you get in, the shots you have to call, and like, and you don't know if some of those, the lives of people were in your hands, and like, damn, like, was it the right one? Like, was that right? Like, you're like, is it? You're reading this paperwork and you're going over this stuff, and like, it's still to this day, I think about some of those calls I did, and I don't know if they're all on the up and up, man.
You talking about, like, taking somebody out or taking somebody off the yard, and not being sure if it was deserved.
Say, like, a kite would come in from the back, and it'd be like, hey, I need you to deal with this guy for so and so reason, and you just deal with it. And you're not sure if it was just like some beef that these people maybe had on the streets, and they, and now they're just trying to,
use you to take them out.
And so, like, you get the paperwork on this guy's no good and that guy's no good. Some of them you just seen in a mile away. Like, as soon as they come in, I knew exactly. Like, I had beef with guys that would come in and I 100% would run up in their cell and take care of them. And here it is that, they'd be like, hey, you get it. All of a sudden this guy has to be removed off the yard, and this is like a booking. This guy has to get booked, and like, you don't know, like, if, like, if it was good or if he lived or not, like that.
Did you ever say no? Like, nah, he's good, I'm not going to do that?
There was a couple times that I would challenge some stuff, but, and that's another thing. You sit there and you would have to really navigate through and you know, and be like, is this guy reputable enough for me? Like, you get a kite from the back in Chino from, you know, like, and like, hey, telling you to do something, and you're like, is this guy like reputable and stuff like that? And only a couple times did I challenge that, but for the most part, I just did it.
When you say from the back, you mean from like management?
Yeah, 100%.
Where does, you know, it's been said that the state prison gangs all get their orders from the shot callers in Pelican Bay.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that, or where were most of the management?
I don't know
for the woods coming from.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it seems like a lot of it back when I was doing it was coming from like, you know, Chino, from like, you know, being in the back at Chino. But I don't know that funnel. I don't know that funnel game of who is who, you know, of all there, because at sometimes it was when I was in Chino and stuff, and it was a very political place over there at the time, and a lot of times since I ran wood and peckerwood like that, and if like a P9 or a Skinhead came at me with something, I would definitely deny it. I'd just be like, I don't take orders from you guys, you know, and I beef with them or whatever, you know, and would you basically just be like, come at me if you got a problem? I just tell them, yeah, like I don't. Yeah, like
I don't think many fools had a problem with you.
I'd be like, hey, meet me at Pill Call tonight after chow, and I go to Pill Call and I tell them straight. I spit in their face and I tell them, you know, F you, and I don't take orders from you. You know, I got this over here. Don't worry about it. You know, and so a couple times I did that. You know,
I don't blame you, because
that's just something. And honestly, that's just something that I learned from that guy. When he'd be like, meet me in Pill Call tonight. And I remember the first time, I'm young, I'm 20 years old, bro, and I'm going over this guy, and I watch him just spit. This guy's like, hey, you're doing, and I just watch this guy spit in this dude's face and say, F you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't take shots from you. You know, like, and like.
Thumper taught you everything you know.
Yeah, Thumper taught me everything.
He taught you how to bid.
Yeah, he did.
White boys take the bid so seriously. Don't you think?
Some people do. Some people I might have been one of them. We go in there and like, that's the only place where somebody, or maybe that we fill somebody. And some people take that. Some people, I didn't, being a shot caller or being somebody in there, or being, you know, somebody in there, like there was very few times that I mean, I get my hands dirty, you get to this point, but like, there was so many youngsters and people that just wanted to do all that work. They didn't, you know, hey, I'll stab them. I'll get my letters, or I'll check this guy. I'll do that. Garrett, you don't even have to worry about it. You know, Garrett, Garrett, don't even worry about it. You know, I had this guy come in and he had to go. And I was like, man, guys just be like, man, I'll take care of it. You know, they go the hole for a few days. They be right back. You know, you go for the hole, you send them a care package while they're over there, you know, and they'd be right back, you know, week, 2 weeks or something like that, 30 days, you know, and
that's just for taking off on a guy, just with fists?
Just for fists. Yeah. Just taking off on them, you know, no booking, you know, and so, and that, you know, and I liked to fight in there, you know, like I was really big. I went down, I met this guy, and he was like from neighborhood Crips, man. And, they were deep. And,
what prison is this at?
This wasn't in prison. This was in county jail. And at this time in county jail, I seemed like I'd done enough time in the prison system. I'm getting ready to go upstate. I'm in county jail, and I'm in like 500 or something like that. And I met this guy, dude, and he was a lifer. He just got sentenced to life, but he was like my doppelganger, but he was black and he was from neighborhood, but we're like size to size. And I remember I'm running these white guys and stuff. We're doing our workout program, and they're saying all this stuff, and I don't know if it was a respect check or something like that, but I remembered when he got in my face, it was the first time I ever looked at a guy eye to eye. Right. And he's like, we can run this in the back right now, and we can't turn that stuff down. And I remember I ran him and the 5 other guys from his neighborhood. You know, I ran the first 4 guys you know, were like his little minions, you know, that just running it. They just wanted to run it. That's it.
You talk about one fight after another.
Just one fight after the other, back to back to back to back. And I remember I got to him, man. His name was Bird. And I got to Bird, man, and much respect, dude. We went until I fell on my ass, dude. And that was back to back to back to back, dude. Wow. And I saw him when I was up, and I was going to reception at Wasco or Delano, and I remember seeing him come through on his turn. But that was one of the most legit fights with another race I ever been in, right there. You know, the eye to eye contact, and the thing is, dog, he was just like, man, Wood. He was like, Wood. He's like, I just wanted to knock you down one time. So, you know, you're like, God damn, because I remember there, you know, because I remember going and what it is, we're in the county and there were stairs, and I remember looking back at the stairs, and he got me, and I fell on my ass, dude, and I was waiting for him to like, you know, get me while I was down or something. I remember sitting there, you know, like on my back of my hands, and he was like, man, you're a good ass Wood, man. Yeah, help me up, dude. He's like, I just wanted to knock you down one time and stuff, you know? And I was there too, yeah. And I was there, like one of his buddies was there. I was in Ironwood with. And yeah, and so that respect, but that respect that created, you know, is beyond anything, because they see that, you see that, and, you know, you're not backing down. You're not going to, you know, call me a bitch word, and like you take off on sight, you know, and I just went to your whole neighborhood right now, you know,
right,
back to back, you know.
Yeah. So by the time you're on your third or fourth bid upstate, it's like you're directing everything.
By the time my fourth or fifth or my sixth, you know, bid upstate, like I literally just walk in and I'd look at some guy and I'd be like, no, you know, I'd just be like, no. I walked on yards and I'd be like, who has it right here, right? I immediately would just, you know, like, I'm gonna be your right hand right now, you know? You know, like I'm moving in with you. Like, I'm gonna be your right hand. I did exactly how Thumper did with me. I'd be like, you're from the valley. You're moving in with me, you know? And that's just, I think that set it all for me. It didn't matter. I went from a 4 yard to a 3 yard to a 2 yard to a 1 yard, you know? When I got to a 1 yard, it would seem like I arrived. You know, my points, all this stuff. And now it's not really from like my strike. You know, I'm like a hard point line. I can't get a gate pass. I can't do it. But like my dream, this is my goal. My goal was to hit, you know, a 1 yard, right? Oh, lounging and kicking. I can't get an outside jobs crew, but I'm lounging. My whole thing is I want to sell drugs and I want to sell tobacco inside prison. See, so this is my whole thing. I get to this yard and this young kid comes up to me. You know, I know a couple people there, but like, he's like, I'm like, first of all, I don't take orders from you. You know, you're white, but you're running Skinhead. I don't, you know, that's cool, but I'm Peckerwood. Like we don't, you know, and so we have this little beef going on. I take his phone, man, and my dream comes true. What I do is I start selling on the yard.
Off his phone?
I bring, I do drops. I bring stuff to the yard, and I start the same lifestyle I'm living on the streets now. I'm living now I'm doing inside on the minimum yard.
Okay, so tell us about this. So now you're on a level 4, obviously in California.
I went level 4 down to a level 1, dude. I'm a hard 19, right? My points dropped because now it's been like 11, 12 years, 13 years. I've been in and out. You know, I've been like, I started at 20. Here I am at 32.
Okay, you
know, I'm 32 years old. I hit this minimum yard, and for me, I'm like, it's just feet up, kick back, and chilling for me.
Is it easier to sell dope on a level 1 than a level 4 because of the low security?
It doesn't matter. It's easy whether you're on a level 1 or a level 4, but you have to get it in somehow. And I remember, you know, you have to get it in. So most likely it's coming through from a person. You know, it's coming in from a person that has a little more freedom. So sitting there and thinking everything through and watching everything go down and really being observant and seeing the cycle of everything, because everything's in a cycle. There, everything's like, you know, is a ritual. Everything is like you count at this time, walks at this time. You know who's working when they're doing and what they're. It's like everything's and you just watch and you watch and watch, and I pay you to jump the fence, go to the street, grab a duffel bag, and jump back in, right?
Yeah.
And And this is by this time the tobacco's out, and it's tobacco and some weed and some methamphetamine. And I'm gonna tell you, like, it's nothing like being inside of an institution, and you're coming through and you have this on the street. It's not much, dude. You have like a half ounce, and on the streets that's not much. But when you're in prison and you're sitting there with this much, dude, and you're breaking everything up into your pinky nail, right?
That's a stick.
That's $100, dude.
Yep.
That's $100, dude. And everything is broken up to that, man. You'd be surprised at how, and like you go out, and that's like, I have all this going down, like everything's all set up. Why I'm at work in the kitchen, you know,
Yeah.
and they're banging on the door like, hey, you know, how it all goes down, and you set it up, and that plan all goes through. And
So off a half ounce of weed, 14 grams.
I'm talking about a half ounce of methamphetamine.
Okay, so you can make
methamphetamine, yeah.
Right.
So,
So you can make $1,400 off of, right? $100.
So you're making $100.
Oh
off,
no, way more than that. I'm sorry.
You're making $100 off a pinky nail, right?
Oh,
Which is, I don't know, but like just say like the tip of a spoon, a tip of a white plastic spoon.
it's basically a one shot up the nostril.
$100, dude.
Holy. So you could make like what, $10,000 off a half ounce?
15, you know, and
How are you getting your money?
PayPal, any which way you PayPal, bids. You know, hey, I want packages. I want, you know, package in your name, my TVs. You're gonna lace your whole self up with. You got to put some. You put some to the people that helped you out, you know, and then you just you put the, you know, and you put it to do, because the next one's always going to be bigger. It's never the same, right? You know, and so the next one goes down. And then the third one, you get really cocky. I got cocky at it. And I was like, don't even worry about it. I'm like, don't even worry about jumping the fence at this point. I'm like, I'll just have people drive in. And like, you know, you got people on outside crews, and I just have people drive in, and we'll just push a bag out to you as they go in. Like I'll rent a car that looks just like the cops' cars, you know, a Toyota Camry, or it was like a Impala. I think it was like a Chevy Impala, all black, tinted windows, look just like and they drive right into the mechanic shop, and the guys outside crews will be working. So, you know, and I'm on the cell phone the whole time. Like that, talking to the person in the car. You're going to, like, you know, like sort of like I can see you driving. Oh, all right. I see you. Yep. You're going to pull in that building. You're going to see a guy that has horns all the way down the side of his head. You know, you see him, push it out now, right? He's going to take it. He's going to put it inside these mop buckets, right? They're going to take it in it and then distribute it. And then I'm going to bring it in. Once a month, they do supplies in the minimum yard, and the warehouses out there stock it. And you sort of just put it in with the supplies, and they bring it in.
That's the stash.
And and then you just bring it in every 2 weeks, every 1 week, you know, you're just bringing in stuff. So
how long does it take you to move 14 grams of dope?
2 days. 2 days. I'm going to tell you this, that maybe it was 7 grams, quarter ounce, and it was all gone by the time I came back from night yard.
Why even have a job in the kitchen, man?
That's just for the mental space that, you know, just like to go and, you know,
it gets you out of your,
it gets you in a routine, man. Cause it's all about routine.
Right.
It's all about routine. And they're like, you know, you're working out, you're doing this stuff, and it's like waking up and you're going to work, and you're getting off work, and you're working out, you know, and it's like sort of just getting to, cause a routine helps you time go by. Of course. That's all it is. And I'm not doing it. See, I'm doing it, and inside there, I'm doing this, and I'm not doing the drugs, you know, and until I'm doing the drugs, you know, and I did the first time I ever put a needle in my arm was on the yard, you know. For so many years, like I went through, and on the streets, I never do it. And here I am, like a close friend of mine comes through, homeboy, you know, like just my partner, you know, like we did everything together, you know, like we're on this case, and all of a sudden we wind up in the same spot, and
it's exciting.
And it's exciting, and I lace them up, and I let them know, and then I'm even bringing syringes in, I'm bringing binkies in from the streets, you know, and
how much does a binky sell for?
$100.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a syringe cut in half. You know, not a full size, a half one. And Yeah. And I remember, man, I had a pipes brought in too, and the guy broke this pipe with one hit. I watched the pipe break, dude. And I told him to put the, you know, I was like, hey, let's put the needle in my arm. And they were like, whoa. And I thought, man, I'd just be able to keep it like that. I thought maybe it would just be that one time thing in prison that I did. And I did it 2 times in prison. And I thought that I would have just got left there. Like I paroled was just that, you know, just happened. That's all, you know, that's it. And from that point forward, there was just nothing but a needle in my arm every time I got loaded. And I just went from wherever I went, I just went there a lot faster.
Yeah. Oh, and that took you to hell.
That took me to hell.
How long after you started using the needle did you parole? Or were you in there for a while getting high?
No. I told him I was getting ready to parole within a few months, and I said, and so I was like, on this last drop I'm gonna lace my homeboys up and all this stuff up. I'll make sure you guys are living large, you know. It's the only thing I should do. And then I said, and we'll get high together on this last one. And my cellie didn't get loaded, man. And I remember he worked in the program off. He was a square, man. But I was like, dude, I remember going to him and I was like, man, this next one we're getting loaded, you know? And he's like, Garet, I don't know. And I was just like, yeah, just for 1 week. That's it, dude. Just 1 week, right? And I'm gonna tell you that little bit inside there, and next thing it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And boy, you know, talking about like it's crazy.
Yeah. So did he become a junkie?
No, he just, you know, I never talked to the guy since. I went in there 2 weeks. I stayed up for a week. You know, and about the second week I had a lot of weed, so I just smoked weed every single day. You know.
Yeah.
And then I cleaned all up. You know, a month, and I'm a month to the house. At that time, I didn't go to the house. I was on a hold, so I went from the pen. I went back to county, and I went back to court, and which is the worst. You know, I think. Of course. And then I got out. And then I continued. And then I put a needle on my arm. You know, once I got out, I thought I was like, cool, everything's all right. You know, I just put a needle right in my arm. You know.
So you became a junkie immediately when you hit the bricks.
I became a junkie. I thought I didn't think I became a junkie right away. I just I thought I was hiding it well and stuff. But I admittedly always been like this junkie in a way, and that. It seems like that addiction that the needle brings, that instant gratification that comes from sticking a needle in my arm. I chased that 100% every time I got out until I got busted again or something tragic had to happen, you know?
So when you got out this time, when you're now injecting, what year is this, by the way?
This is 2000, has to be 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the year I was in prison in 2011.
Yeah, this is 2000. It has to be around the end of 2011. And I do, and
what is your family life like now? Are your parents still alive? Like, what is left in Palmdale?
Both my parents are gone. My mom passed away just a couple of years ago. My dad, about 3 years ago. 3 or 4 for my dad, 2 or 3 for my mom. The dynamics of my family after my dad died just really changed everything. I don't really talk to like that, none of that family. I mean, I got sober and I amended all these, you know, things, childhood traumas that I may have. And I rebuilt my relationships with them, you know, on a whole different way of life. And when I got out of prison in 2011, I got a daughter who I don't talk to. I got a mom that's still in the game. A dad that I don't even care, like he's not even in my life. At that time, I'm like, I get out of prison, like you're not. I'm still living this life. And I went and I just immediately put a needle in my arm, and I couldn't stop not putting a needle in my arm. And by the time you know, a few months goes by, I get arrested again, and I went to this, and I started this life of recovery. I went to a treatment center. You know, instead of a parole violation, it was all about a treatment facility. And I left there. I went back to county jail because I never had no driver's license. I had 168 traffic tickets and never had a driver's license my whole life. I lost like 155 cars, you know, but never had a driver's license, you know. You know, I like it was substantial. I had to go get this printout, and I was like, and it names it all off like a thick file. And I was just, it's just like amazes me, like, you know, because when you're dealing drugs, you don't. I just want cars, and I pulled over them, and what they call it, I charge it to the game. I don't care. Like here, if you're not going to arrest me, give me the ticket and take the car, right? And so I just get in another car. I mean, there was times when I lost like 3 to 4 cars in one day just because I can't, like, I get in this routine on the streets of just like in the car making these rounds, and you want to take it, you know. And so here it is that I get out. It's 2011. I go to a treatment center, and there's some seeds planted in me, but it's not the seed that I water and put sunshine. And I went out there and I put the needle on my arm some more and by this time too, not only am I doing meth, that I got into heroin. And so I'm putting heroin and meth inside of a needle, and I'm shooting it, and I'm absolutely a disgusting pig, you know.
You do those at the same time?
I put it in the needle at the same time, heroin and speed, heroin and meth at the same time inside of a syringe, and I shoot it, and I'd be going 100 miles an hour, but not fast, you know. Like I'd be 100 miles an hour in the nod, you know, and And I go out there and I become a straight now I really become that junkie that I would see, and you know, that would just be like, so whatever, I give you my shoes for a hit. Right. I give you whatever I had. I didn't care, you know. At this time, it didn't matter that I had a mom and a dad and a daughter, because I'm not trying to associate with none of that, you know. I'm just out here killing time. And
did you expect to go back to prison?
Always. I knew exactly, like, even though I knew exactly what was going to happen when I did that, like I knew I try to self-will it to go to parole office, like that I get out and be like a Thursday, and I try to go there on a Friday, but I'd be like, I'll make it Monday, and I never make it on a Monday. Right. You know, if I didn't go like immediately that next day to parole and to the parole board meeting, and then I run into somebody at a parole board meeting, and I'd be off and running, and you know, and then plus two, I did some things, so I get out, I'd be fresh, and I just walking around town, I'd be at an AM/PM or a Walmart or something, and I run into a partner of mine, and it'd just be like, I'm instantly just, they ain't gonna give you no money to get on your feet, but they definitely give you a bag to get on your feet, you know?
Right.
And, you know, and
right.
And so
so it's almost like were you kind of hoping when you're down that bad, are you kind of hoping to go back to get locked up? Because you're better in there. You're clean in there
at the
mostly.
I'm 100% on the up and up when I'm inside there. You know, 95% of the time when I was busted, I was on the up. Like I'm a totally different person than when I'm on the streets. So when I'm on the streets, I'm weak, and I'm using, and I'm just like feeding this disease, this beast inside me. And I feel like, man, I wanted to die, man. Like it wasn't about like, you know, like I can tell you these stories about stuff I did on the streets that are just like, so like, wow, like, no, what it was is like me living in this death wish. You know, like it was me just really on the inside trying to die, man. Like, you know, because that's the drugs. This is where it takes me, man. I go from that person to now all of a sudden, like I'm putting this heroin and meth in a needle, and I'm shooting it up, and here I am, and I just figure that I do talk to my mom. That's where all those gangsters go when we get in trouble. Like my mom is a person. Like I call my mom, and it didn't matter if it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When it didn't matter. Like I could call my mom whether like I'm sketched out, think I'm gonna get raided, or like or whatever bind I'm in, or whatever. Like hey, whatever conspiracy theory I'm in, like whatever. Like hey, I need to eat or something. Mom was always there, 100%. Like every prison term, I 100% always got a letter from my mom. You know, and the thing is that when I started living that way, and the thing is like I didn't want my mom to know I was putting that in my body like that. And here I'm on the streets, and I'm full on addicted, man. And my addiction to me is that I'm dead, man. Like I have nothing to live for. I feel like, you know.
Well, you're lucky you didn't die.
I'm very lucky, man.
Because like, you're like almost speedballing, but with meth.
I'm speedballing with meth. I'm falling out. Like I'm literally on Harleys, and I'm riding, and I'm full on chin to chest, coasting down hills, and I'm coming to with people on both sides of me honking and pointing at me like, what's going, dude, you're asleep on the motorcycle. And I'm like, and I'm just like, and I'm coming to, like, I just remember like you're rolling, the bike's chugging, and I'm coming, and like my eyes are open, and I'm looking, and like I hear nothing but like this person, I can see them yelling at me, and this person yelling and pointing at me, and I sort of just like, I give it gas and I take off on this bike, right? And like, holy crap, like, you know, like, hope a cop didn't see me, you know, the last thing you want to do is get arrested, right? And for me, like, even on Valentine's Day of 2013, man, like, it wasn't like I'm riddled with track marks. I'm still living that life of, of on the streets, and I'm getting shot at, man. I wasn't thinking like, what I was thinking is that, like, as I'm running up towards this guy who's shooting at me, I'm really wishing that one of these bullets would catch me. I'm really wishing that this guy would take me out, because I have no respect for myself. Like, I demoralize myself in every which way, that I feel pathetic, man. Like, deep down, like the way I feel about myself is just horrendous, man. And like I'm dying on the inside, and and like I had multiple death wishes, and then that night I get arrested one more time, man. And
why were they shooting at you?
Just the enemy on the streets, dude. Like as a guy, just a beef. It's just beef on the streets with the guys, and I'm not one. I'm like, look, dude, like, when I see you, like, well, we're on the same ground out here doing the same thing. When I find you, you know what's going to happen. And when I showed up that morning at this apartment complex, and I asked the person I was with, I'm like, who's here? And they're like, oh, this guy, he's here. And I'm like, and I immediately had like a pair of gloves in my pocket, and all I'm really, at this point, all I'm trying to do, I feel like I've been up for about 40 days since I got out. Yeah. It's only been 45 days since I got out, and I've probably been up all those days, at least 40 of them, Do
you have bad knees?
No, I'm actually, I don't know if it's because I worked out all the time in prison or what it is, but like I'm good.
Did you ever meet tweakers though? Like, after a lifetime of just running, doing dope, they're up for so long that they've like whittled the bones down in their ankles and knees and their feet. Yeah.
Man, I met people with one leg out there, you know what I'm saying? Fucking,
okay, my bad.
I remember the school teacher that had one leg, you know what I'm saying? And she hobbled around like nothing,
Was she used to be a dope fiend or something?
Yeah, and I sell her dope, man. Man, you're out there selling, like, at one time I had a thing to where I didn't like selling, like, I only sold to you if you had a job. Like, why? Yeah. And it's like,
why is that?
That's because they had money. They had money, right?
How prevalent is methamphetamine in Palmdale? I mean, we're getting a sense of it, but like, it sounds like normal people are doing it.
I think
working people are doing it.
Working people, and I think it's everywhere. And just like with whether a person's able to like come home and take a drink and like a functioning addict and functioning alcoholics, those people are alive out there. I'm just not one of those people. Like, if I take a drink, I'm up, dude. Like, if I did high, I'm going to prison, like 100%. But there's the people out there that work, and I don't know, like, if that's the only thing when you're out there, that's all I knew when I was out there was that drug environment. Like, if you didn't do drugs or you weren't, I didn't know, like, you're a cop, like you're not hanging around me because you're gonna get a bad, I'm too big and I'm moving too much for you to be around. Be like, what's up with this guy? And
I feel like it's a little more known now with like the opioid crisis, right? But back in those days, this was like the scourge of like white communities in small town America, ravaged by methamphetamine. Like like what you're talking about with Palmdale, that's so many different towns in America. Absolutely. Don't you agree?
I agree 100%.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree that all over the world, that like it's not just something that's just in Antelope Valley. You can take that situation and put it in other states and other communities, and whether you're in LA or if you're in San Fernando Valley or you're in Antelope Valley, like, we all have those areas. They're not as bad. Like the Skid Row, because it's in Los Angeles, is bad, but there's places in Antelope Valley or even out there in Bakersfield that are just as bad, or just that to where like you don't want to roll through there. Like, to nowadays, I'm just like, there's stuff like, I was out there in Bakersfield, and going through these neighborhoods out there, and like it was late at night, and I was like, God, and there was like, it was just like, this is a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, you're rolling through like, this is like back in the day, this was my vibe, but now I'm not.
Right.
Like, I'm locking my car. You know,
I'm not trying to be here.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be here at dark. You know.
Yeah, zombies.
Mm-hmm.
So you were going up to like, you put your gloves on, you're going to like beat somebody up?
I told this girl, I'm like, who is it? I put my gloves on, and this guy pulls up, and I told you, like, you know what's going to happen. I sort of stand in front of him, and I go over to the side in his car, and I punch him. I start, he rolls down the window. I take off on him, and I'm at this gate in an apartment complex, and so once the gate opens up, like he takes off, and then like my ride's gone, so I start walking. I'm with a couple friends of mine with like I always had a little missile with me. As a guy, I don't know if it's like something that I always have like my little guy that's under my wing, So I have a guy that's with me, and I have this girl whose house I'm gonna go to fall asleep, because that my problem is that I think that, damn, if I just get some sleep, man, I'll be good. I just need a place to lay down. And as we walk down the street, maybe a half a block, I hear his car coming, and so what I do is I step off the curb and into the street, and he pulls up right there on the line, and I just watch him as he pulls his gun out, man, and he points it at me, bro, and he just starts, and as he points it, and as I see it, I don't wait for him to start shooting. As I see him like this out of his car window, I start running towards it, man, and I just literally running from just stepping off the curb to just the length of a one lane of a street, and I don't get hit or nothing, and he takes off as he unloads the clip, and
you were running at the guy shooting at
him. Yeah, I run straight at him.
Were you trying to get killed?
Yeah, I guess so. That's the thing, is that when I got to a point where, like, if I was to die doing something, I think that people were better off. That's just the demoral. That's just what happens to me when I drink and use. I come to this point to where I just like, it was like I didn't die, and then all I wanted to seek was revenge. And then I'm already running from the law because I don't check in. The cops are looking for me for things I did that, that I might have done in a blackout or something, when I was in the, and I call my mom, because my mom has my gun at her house, and I'm like, Mom, I need to come grab that thing from the house. And she's like, well, I'm not there. And she's like, I'm in town with my friend, and it was Valentine's Day, and I get loaded with my mom. So I'm like, I'll get you and your friend loaded, And she was like, well, every place that you're attached to is getting raided right now. And I was like, well, then I'll come to where you're at. And I go to her house, and my friend's with me, and we get loaded, and I get dropped off at this liquor. Afterwards, she drops me off at this liquor store.
You got high with your mom?
I got high with
Was
my
that
mom.
normal?
For me,
at this point?
Yeah, it was normal.
You guys were shooting?
No, my mom didn't shoot it. I smoke it.
Okay.
I hid the shooting part from everybody.
Right.
I was in the closet about it. I never wanted my mom to see that part of me, So like, I go there and smoke it with her, and
Now, did she have a job? Did she?
No, I don't have no job. She doesn't work. She's just I really don't know what she does. She's she just does whatever she has to do.
But she never got incarcerated in all these years.
She got incarcerated when I was a little kid, but she never got busted or incarcerated or nothing like that.
Did she sell too? Occasionally?
Occasionally, yeah. Well, of course, because when I was making it, I was pushing it on her to go, here, just go to my mom and get it. Go to my mom and get it, right? Just go to my mom, right? And say, just go to the trailer, go to the trailer. And
so you were giving her packages.
My number one, who you want to take care of, here.
Wow, you were the connect.
She never had to, if I had it, mom had it, she never had to, go without,
Yeah. Yeah, it was instant money. There's so much money in meth in those places that it can't not sell.
My thing too, like I remember my big thing, like my big headedness of it too, is that I thought you can buy anything I wanted. Like I just like to see how I could buy anything with methamphetamine. Cars off the lot, mortgage on a house, like pay lawyer, just everything, like no money out of my pocket, just like with all product. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like wow. I had guys that worked on car lots, and I never had, there was never a dime out of my pocket, mortgage on a house, Who
do you give a mortgage broker? A mortgage broker?
Yeah. A realtor,
right.
Here's an ounce of, a week or something, like quarter pound of, like that's just how you know.
Right.
And that's just how it works, and I used to love that. Like I watched, I think we were talking about it earlier, how like you get these working class people who did it, and I shadow I watch how their whole life, I bring their whole life down, and then I leave them, right? Like they sell, they use, I watch them, I feed them and feed them and feed them, and I run their house on the ground, and I get it raided, and I turn it into a trap house, and I drain your bank accounts, I drive your cars, I do all this stuff, right? Then I just leave you. I'd be on to the next one, right? By that time, it'd be pretty close to me, that your house is getting raided, and I have to go find me another house to be at. And that was just like, that's just what I lived, that's just.
And you were numb from the drugs.
Numb, never attachments, never getting close to anything, never just numb every single day. And my mom dropped me off that day. My mom just dropped me off at a liquor store, and I'm at the end of my ropes, man. And I've been shooting up. I got track marks all the way up and down my body. My mom drops me off at that liquor store, and I get a bottle of vodka, and I'm seeking revenge, dude, to that guy. And I'm calling my partner to go grab that thing from my mom's house, because I'm a smoke him. And a cop, dude, an off-duty officer. I used to think I was incognito too. Like, I'm too big to be like. I really for sure thought like that I was just like, I could just run with I could just fit in with the crowd,
right?
Not knowing that I'm a 1.5 feet, 2 feet above everybody
Not
in a
our
crowd
size,
here,
buddy.
right? So I'm just sitting here like, thinking like, how did they identify me, right? And after they see me walking from that liquor store to my little trap house, my little safe house, I always had to have a safe house, and walking from that safe house, and I for sure that's like someone had to tell, And they're like, and the thing is, I just stuck out like a sore thumb, dude.
Right.
The cops saw me. And they're always looking for, I'm up to no good. And they followed me to the house I was at. And within minutes of me getting ready I was getting ready to pulling up a shot, because I was getting ready to go do what I had to do, and waiting for my partner to come. And they came in. I don't know, 5 minutes, dude. And they came in, they just windows and doors and had me down on the ground, and I was arrested again. Wow. I was detoxing one more time in the county jail. I was forehead to someone's back because I couldn't stay awake, because now the drugs, now the real pain comes, right? Now the pain of going in, now I have nothing to put in my body. Like, it hurts to eat, it hurts to think, it hurts to, like, my whole body just is DTing, like, all I can really drink is some juice. I can eat like a couple bites of a sandwich, and hopefully that I could stay in a holding cell and not get booked. Like, hopefully I can get like 24 hours, man. That I was always that grace period of like, you get arrested and it's like, man, the bus left, so you got like 24 hours, before the next bus comes that next day. Yeah. And man, lo and behold, I get on that first bus. I'm back down in the county jail. I'm doing the processing, and like I said, like I have a name or a handle or whatever I am when I'm in that system. So I can immediately, like, people, boom, pull which way in direction. And I'm getting loaded in there. I'm eating happy cards. I'm feeding that disease. I'm drinking some hand sanitizer because it has alcohol in it. And
do you have respect even when you go in completely sucked up and with track marks on your arm? Like, you still get respect as like a shot caller?
The thing is that through that processing, like, you don't want it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like that processing of the weeks, that a few weeks or 30 days that it takes to actually land somewhere, like, you're going in, you're going into the cell and like you're sleeping and and you're all of a sudden after a week of that, like you're working out, and then all of a sudden, like, by the second week, you're going to another destination, and then you're meeting some guys, and it's not that you're immediately being like some kind of authority or shot caller, but like you go somewhere in the 30 days or something like that later, and then all of a sudden, like, it's like you're healthy and you're right, and it just and you are, like, usually I walk into somewhere and they just be like, especially like if you've done a lot of time and you've been around and like you go into a place and they haven't had that much experience, and they're automatically like, hey, what do you think? Or you do it, and as time came by, like, I wasn't interested in being that person. I was more interested in just being like, hey, I'll stay on the sideline and trying to stay away from stuff, man. But
so what changed this time? And what was your charge, by the way? Was it just a parole violation, or
this time it was just a parole violation, dude?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
could have been a murder beef.
It was about to be a murder beef, 100%. My whole intent was like, I was gonna smoke a guy, you know, and I went to it was just a parole violation, and they went to and I went to parole board, and at this time they were handing out cards to go to a treatment facility. And what happened for me is I went and I took a treatment facility because at this point I don't have nothing, dude. I don't have nothing out there, man. I have absolutely nothing. That and I arrived. I went to a treatment facility, and I'm gonna tell you, for the past 15 years up to this point, I always denied it. I didn't want it. I didn't care for it. I knew that I wasn't done. Right? I might have wanted it, right? But I didn't want it so bad that I was going to make a decision about it.
All right.
And I went to a treatment facility on March 17th of 2013. I arrived at a treatment center, and something, I don't know, like, it wasn't nothing magical. It was just, I think that deep down inside me, I was just really done. I got to a point where I was done, man. And
sometimes it's like Carlito's Way, like Al Pacino says in Carlito's Way. He goes, sometimes you just run out of wind. You know what I mean?
100%. And I sat there, man, and I think one time, like, what I did, I remember sitting in the booking tanks. You get caught up in all the tanks. Over there, it's just a line. You're a number in this tank and a number to this tank, and then until you get to your destination. And I remember sitting there in that one more time in this brick room environment and thinking, man, fuck, I'm so done, man. I'm so done, right? I mean, how many times have I been in the same room doing the same thing, man? And I was just so, like, just done. And I arrived at that treatment center, man, and I arrived at a treatment center that was a whole lot better than doing a violation in jail.
Right.
And something happened to me where I wanted a better life than what I was living. You know, my daughter was 8 years old. I never didn't know. She doesn't even know who her dad is at this time. Right. You know, my dad, I haven't talked to my dad in 20 something years. My mom, you know, my relationship with my mom was I just get loaded with my mom and I go back to prison. You know, and I started a life of recovery. That point, March 17, 2013 is my sobriety date, man. And from that point to now, to this day, I haven't put nothing. I reached back into my past and I lived vigorously through it, but I lived through it and I talk about it in order to help other people. You know, that's my objective in life, is just to be able to help. You know, help another person not struggle maybe the same way I struggled, and to maybe identify in the realness of what I share, and to be able to and I hope that somebody will have enough strength or enough of ego out of the way to be like, man, it's how do I do it? How do you do it, Garet? How do you do it, man? How do you go from like somebody like that, man? There's a straight, you know, whether a shot caller or a connection or a drug addict to an addict to just a homeless junkie piece of crap, dude. Like what does it take for you, like, to be done? Like, how did you do it? Like, and I'm gonna tell you what all I did, man, is I tried every which way there was that I knew how to live life, man. I thought I was living, man. Like, you know, I'm trying to have these houses with dope car, you know, like 19 years old or something, you know, like, you know, 18 years old, I got, you know, a car I bought with dope money. You know, that was like, man, I remember the first time I ever drove up to my mom's house. I had this brand new car, you know, like T-tops and my mom's living in this beat up old trailer, and you know, and they're just like, what happened? And you're like, here, mom, you know, here.
Right.
Here you go, you know. But I started this life of recovery, man, and I just beat every option out of me, and the recovery was the only way I had left. And I'm 100. My life today is ingrained in recovery.
Yeah. So I hear that a lot about people in recovery. They say, I just finally gave up.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I gave up. I gave up trying to live life on my terms, and I finally just set everything I thought I knew about life to the side, and I started and I took some advice from, you know, from one time it was Thumper that was giving me my life advice, and then from there it was Loki, you know, and then, you know, it was there from Chaos, you know, it was all these guys, you know, and now I went to another gentleman that I respect and admire, man, and he showed me a different way to live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's this thing, man. I love it, man, and it's my favorite things to say, man. And it's just this thing of like God's on one side and the devil's on one side, and they're watching this guy come out of this casket, and the guy's looking, and as he comes out of the casket, he's looking at the devil and he's looking at God, you know, and they look at him and he starts coming up, and the devil looks at God and they start, you know, God takes his people and they walk one way, and the devil takes his people and they go one way, and the guy's watching that go down, and the devil, man, taps one of his disciples on the shoulder, and he's like, I forgot something back there, right? And he's like, I'll be right back. And he starts walking back towards the guy. And the guy's like, whoa, man, stop. He's like, hey, man. He's like, I haven't made a decision yet, man. I'm still thinking about it. And he leaned back against the fence, and the devil looked at him, and he said, he's like, I didn't come back here for you. I left this here, but he's all, but you might as well go ahead and come with me. He's all, because I see you leaning up against that fence. And that fence belongs to me. And for what happened for me is that for so long that what I did is I was a product of my environment, of the circumstances that came along my way, that I never made a decision in my life. I just always did the next best thing to get loaded, and which led me to jail, and I do my time and I get out and I repeat this cycle. But on that day that I walked inside that treatment center on March 17th, and I looked this girl in the eyes, man, and I told her that I would stay. Like there was something inside of me. There was enough of me out of the way that it made sense, man, that I would do anything. And then I finally got, like, I finally put my trust in
So you got off that fence.
I got off that fence, man.
And what that allegory is saying is you have to make a decision to move away from the devil, because if you just stand there, he'll take you.
This is the thing, man.
It's
What
like,
it means is that for so long that what we do is that we stand there leaning on a fence and letting decisions and letting the decisions get made for us, you know?
Yeah.
And what happens for the first time is that you have to make a decision, when the devil's like, hey, the fence belongs to me, is that I sat back there in that comfortableness on that fence, and just for the ease and comfort of it. And I didn't have no direction to go in. I never wanted to make a decision. I'd be like, you know, my direction was just the drugs and alcohol. And you know, and like I said, like the as soon as I used it, just I'd be out for 6 days to 30 days. I'd be right back in. Yeah. Right back in. And I think that a lot of it for me is that instead of having my choices being made for me, I made a decision for my choices. And that decision was that I was going to do anything I was tired of living that life, man. You know, and if anybody's listening, I hope that if you're tired of living that life, or you think that there's a better life out there, you know, there's a better life.
Well, there is, man. You pulled up in a beautiful white truck. you know, you probably got a driver's license now.
Oh, 100%, dude. I just got the real ID, man. It's even better, right?
Awesome.
I got a passport. I travel the world. I a small business, you know, all this stuff is great. I'm gonna tell you, I got a garage full of toys. I got multiple trucks. I got you know, multiple ways of income coming in and stuff like that. And all that stuff is very, very much so good. Like, it's admirable. It really makes you feel good as a human being. Like, I arrived. You know, I know my shoe size, and I got clean pants on, and my underwear I can change every single day, and my socks are different every single day, right? You know, and all that stuff is very, very nice. But for me, it's nothing compared to me when I pull somebody out of the stinking hellhole of a life, just like I was explaining to you out there in the disease of drug and addiction and prison and drugs. And I think what helped me the most is by me losing myself into other people, man, I really find out who I really was and get my meaning and purpose in life, and all that stuff, man. Like I said, it's very nice, man. It's really nice to be able to maybe pull up somewhere and be like, damn, this guy, look at this guy, and this nice car or nice motorcycle, and nice restaurants, all that stuff is whatever, man. I tell you what, 100%, man. I pulled a few guys out of the depths of hell, man, and those guys that were leaning on the fence, man, I watched them make a decision, and to this day I watch how their life is just, man, is beyond their wildest dreams. Even though we have 20/20 vision, we can never see ourselves clearly. And the only way I can see myself clearly is by working with these other men, man, on a constant, man. It's never like, oh, all right, cool. Like it's over with. It's like, I got to constantly stay in there in the battlefield, in the trenches with these other people to pull them out. I don't know what it is with me, man, but like, since I identify and I've been there, like it's just something like that for me, that's what brings me purpose in life. Like I never had no purpose in life. I was out there just like take me back to prison, right? Like basically, like I knew as soon as I got out and I popped open that 40 from the bus station, and on my way home, like I drank in it, like I sort of knew exactly what was going to happen. Like I was hopefully going to get laid, but not every time, hey, but I was going to get loaded.
Yeah.
And once I got loaded, it was a wrap, And,
did you make up with your daughter, or did you redevelop a relationship?
I got this relationship. I absolutely did, man. That daughter, that dad, I didn't talk to you for 20 some odd years. I rebuilt that relationship, man.
Congrats.
I remember when he walked in for the first time after I haven't seen him in like 17 years. I haven't seen my dad. And when you look at your dad when you saw him at 14 and now you're 32 and you see your dad, and it's a whole different, man. It's a whole different thing, man. Like you're just like, man, dad, like whatever it is, man. I might never been able to play catch with my dad, but I got a son now. And I'll make sure damn well that me and my son play catch, and I made those amends before my dad passed away. Like I was there, I was present, I was accountable. And this is all stuff that I learned from being in this program from the guy I met, which I call sponsors. This guy just taught me how to be an upstanding. He taught me some basic stuff, man, that just to this day helps me in life. And I amended that. The relationship with my mom, sometimes the person you love the most is a person you got to stay away from. I didn't talk to my mom for maybe almost 2 years. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't feel like I didn't want to. I see her, but I couldn't hang around here until I knew I was on a steady and a strong foundation. And once I was, even though like sometimes it's like. Even though I have a disease and I'm in an addiction and all this stuff, not everybody around me is. And I just know that my recovery is my recovery. And I can't expect everybody to get sober just because I did.
Did she ever get sober?
You know what? I never asked. But I know when I saw her, like when I was at the hospitals, when I go pick her up for dinner, when I want to introduce her to her grandkids, because now I got that relationship with like my daughter and I have another boy, and so like, and I know like when those times when I the look on her face, man, like I was at the hospital one time. She got a stent in her heart. I was there picking her up, man. And I'm going to tell you, when my son ran out the room, I went and chased him and I turned around and I picked him up and I looked around at my mom, dude. I'm going to tell you, like she was peeking out that door at the hospital. And when she saw me, man, and our eyes met. Like, me and my mom, like she had like being in addiction and all the stuff that she went to and the traumas. Like it was probably hard for her to talk about emotionally and all this stuff too as well. But I'm gonna tell you, when I saw her eyes and our eyes met, man, she didn't have to say, man. And she probably knew maybe her son wasn't going to go back to prison, that her son, maybe that all that praying and all that hardship and all that stuff that she went through, that maybe that somewhere down the line that maybe that enriched their belief in God, to like, damn, like my mom, like, man, I was out there doing some, putting work in, she didn't know if I was going to come in dead or if I was, or, she going to call, like she's seeing the lights and sirens that, busted again,
right.
One more time. But I'll tell you about that little girl too, man. a little girl was 8 years old when I got back in her life. I remember I was in that treatment facility, and I ride a Metrolink down, and it was so awkward and so like I didn't know, like I was like,
how long had it been? Since
8 years.
Okay.
8 years. My mom brought her when she was like 5 years old to visit me in a county jail one time when I came down fighting a case, and I felt like she disrespected me really bad. I felt like, how could you bring this little girl down here to see me like this? Like, this is my lowest. Mm-hmm. And she told me this. I remember on that phone with her and my little girl's in this little box right here. And she was like, and I couldn't understand it, man, because I was too self-centered and selfish at this time. It's like, this little girl loves you no matter what. And I didn't know. See, I don't know. I can't transmit nothing like that. I don't know what she means. I'm just like, you disrespected me by bringing her to see me like this, right? And at 8 years old, I remember going to my first father-daughter dance, and being so scared, and so like I didn't know how to be a parent. Like my parenting and father skills at this point, I didn't know, man. I didn't know. And the guys in the program just told me to, just keep on showing up. And so what I did is I just kept on showing up to every little dance, parade, recital, everything that she had going on in her life. I just made myself present, and I put the time out for all that stuff. And my daughter now today goes to San Diego State College, and we learned to surf together, and now we surf together.
Amazing. It's
amazing, dude. And she called me on a regular basis, and we talk on a regular basis, and I know damn well 100% for sure my daughter loves me.
Yeah.
And she knows 100% that I love her,
Look at that.
Yeah. That's a miracle, man.
That was from all of that.
I used to take my daughter in stolen cars around selling drugs.
Oh, Jesus.
In a stolen car selling drugs, like, and thinking that was I was a dad. Right. No driver's license, no job, right?
Daddy-daughter time.
Daddy-daughter time. Stay out here for a second. I'll be right back, right? I'll buy you anything you want when I get back. We'll go to the store. I remember taking her shopping at those times. I don't know how to shop, but you know what I did? You can have whatever you want in the store, right? Right? Buy whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
She didn't even know what she wanted. Know what she wanted? She wanted time with her dad.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. She wanted time with her dad, man. I swear to God, man, there's another thing too, man, for all those parents out there and this stuff like this. And this guy, he walks into his house, and he sees this little girl there on the couch, and he goes in that house and he grabs a beer, and he comes over to his girl, and he sits on the couch, and he turns on the TV, and he starts watching the news, and his little girl comes up to him, and she's like, Dad, she's like, can I ask you a question? And he's like, he just got off work, so he's a little irritated, and he just really doesn't want to be bothered. And he's like, yeah, like, what do you want? And she's like, well, I want to ask you a question. He's like, well, just ask it. And she's like, Dad, can I borrow $10? And he's like, $10? Why do you want to borrow $10? Oh, well, I really need it, Dad. And he's like, you know what, man? Like I pay the electricity here. I put food in the fridge. Like I get those clothes on you, right? I man, how selfish of you, like I do nothing but give to you, Go to your room, you're grounded, right? And he sits there and he drinks the rest of the 6-pack. And then he goes back to his room. And as he walks by his daughter's door, he sees her on her bed, like kneeling, almost like praying and stuff like that. And he opens her door, and she's like, yes, Daddy. And he's like, let me ask you a question. He's like, what'd you want that $10 for? And she's like, well, Dad, you told me you make, $25 an hour. She's all, I've been saving my allowances for the past 2 months. And all I needed was $10 more, to get an hour of your time. And for me, man, the most important thing that you can ever do for your kids or some of your loved ones is just give them your time. It's not about the money you got and the stuff you get them, man. It's about the time you give them. I sat in many places with no money, broke, just looking at just being able with the quality of time, man. And
that's pretty wild. You went from fighting back to back in a level 4 prison riot to now your daughter goes to college, and you made amends with your parents before they passed.
100%, and walked through that also, and didn't think about taking a drink, hit or fix. The most, like, the one thing, man, as I got sober and I'm sticking around here, and I'm like, is there that one reservation? Like I always used to think, man, if something happens to my mom, I don't know if I can make it. You know, I'm a mama's boy. Like I'm still a mama's boy, right?
Same.
You know, and then when all that stuff happened, dude, and I'm talking dad and then mom back to back, dude. So much, it's going on 3 years and about 1 month. And I'm gonna tell you, man, that I didn't. This is like the God into the program of AA, man, like that. Like I didn't think, like when something really emotionally just sort of like sabotaged me and just sort of like that was meant to like break me. I don't know if like I put so much work in with helping these other guys and working this program and doing like enough God stuff in me that when that time came, man, that I didn't think about taking a drink. I didn't think about changing the way I was feeling. That I was able to walk through those emotions and the way I felt, man, without putting a substance in my body. And it hurt, man. I ain't saying that it was like I'm talking like a feeling of numbness, of emptiness, of like, wow, you know, like I just know that my last memories of my mom, dude. I went to dinner with her. I took her out. I always would go pick up my mom with her grandkids, and I take her out, man. And I dress my son up, just look just like me. Like I had little baby pictures, and I dress him up the same way. And I see her. We'd be in the restaurant. And you know, I'm not parent. I just let my kids. I'll be like run around, you know, just like running around, like grabbing salt and pepper off all the other tables, type thing, you know. But I see her looking at him, and I'd be like, "Does he look familiar? Does he look like me, Mom?" Right? And she'd be like, "Yes, he does. Looks just like you." And that, man, brings tears to my eyes thinking about it now, you know.
Garet,
yeah,
God bless you, brother.
Thank you, man.
And
Thank
everybody
you.
at home listening, you can do it too, you know. So switch over. We're going to talk a little bit on the Patreon. I mean, this was an amazing episode. Absolutely killed it. Is there anything you want to plug? Your treatment center or anything like that?
Mindset Recovery. You can get a hold of me on my social media, Garet McLendon on Garet McLendon, 1R1T on the Garet. IG, please hit the IG button. Follow me. I'm looking for that. Facebook, you can follow me. Reach out to me if anyone that you know needs help was struggling with, you know, fentanyl, pills, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. Just please, you can reach out to me, man. I'm here to help.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks, guys. Take care.